Yes, guys, hello and welcome back to the Spurs-related YouTube channel and podcast. Today, we have to go through Tottenham 0, Chelsea 1. And on paper, it doesn't sound too bad, but if anyone was at the game or watched the game, you'll understand that it was an absolute mess. And as you can see by the title of the video, have Tottenham got problems in the dressing room? Has Thomas Frank started to lose the dressing room? Have things got a bit too toxic, or can it be recovered? We will go through all the ins and outs from the game on Saturday evening. Tactics, stats, insights. Thomas Frank press conference as well today with Vicario, with a few quotes that are interesting to say the least. And today, as you can see, I'm joined alongside a star-studded panel. We are missing one, which I'll get to in a minute, but of course, back joined alongside Thomas Frank's AI son, Frank Thomas. He was at the game on Saturday. Frank, how you doing, mate? And just firstly, how bad was that game on Saturday?
It was dismal, sort of turgid. I mean, you can list every single word under that sort of caliber of word. It was naff, and probably one of the worst games of Tottenham I've watched it in. When I sort of think of the real terrible Tottenham games in the last sort of 10 years, and I think of the Zagreb loss and losing out to NS Mura and play games like that, I think Saturday probably is in that sort of bracket. It was disappointing because you play a London derby at home. I can accept losing to Chelsea. I think I read the number was since the start of the Premier League, they've won 1867 times of playing Chelsea. So you can kind of accept losing to Chelsea, not all the time. I don't think that Chelsea team are great by any stretch, but I've kind of come accustomed to just being like, we lose to Chelsea. But it's about actually having a bit of fight and a bit of belief and a bit of sort of desire to try and win it, and we had absolutely none of that at any point in that 90 minutes, and so it was dismal, and sort of a real disappointing way to spend Saturday evening.
Yeah, I don't disagree with anything you said there, Frank. Nail on the head. And guys, hopefully this is a bit of therapy for you today. We can all come together and sort of sound out if it's going to get any better or if it's going to be a difficult few weeks. I think maybe the latter. But as you can also see, we are joined alongside Ireland's #1 Spurs fan and Irish Hotspur FC's 5th or 6th best player. That is David Harris himself. Davo, I know you're frustrated, mate. We've already been speaking, but how are you doing, mate? And how's things?
First of all, second best player on the Pro Clubs team behind Sam. I think my numbers back that up in general, and the way I create, and when I'm not creating, when I'm not there, you guys are losing. When I'm there, you seem to win games. So I'd say second most. But look, in general, pissed off, after the Chelsea defeat. I thought it was gutless, spineless, weak, cowardly, to be honest with you, especially the big build-up we were given. Frank said in the pre-match press conference, we're going to go after them. I was waiting. I was still waiting, at 12 o'clock midnight on Saturday, waiting for us to go at them. It was absolutely shocking. And one of the worst performances I've ever seen in a Tottenham in a Tottenham shirt, to be honest with you. There's no excuses for it whatsoever. We can sit here, say injuries, this, that, and the other. We gave a better go at 9 men. A couple of seasons ago. One thing with Chelsea, we've always given them a right go. They've had better quality on the pitch. We've always given them a right game, and we just didn't turn up, and there's no excuse for it whatsoever. That Chelsea team has not been the team that we've come up against in years gone by that has led to that horrific record against them. They were there for the taking, and we didn't do it. We're too scared, too cowardly.
Yeah, no, again, I completely agree, mate. It was very cowardly. It was spineless. It was just lackluster. Players didn't seem to care. And then at the end of it, lack of respect towards the manager, who, of course, he's having question marks against him. But you don't want to see that with your players and your manager sort of at heads with each other. So we'll get into little parts of those games as well. Guys, keep whacking in your comments. I can see a few of you in the stream already, and I'm going to go through a few comments in a minute. But a bit of housekeeping, of course. Please do, guys, make sure you're hitting the like button on this stream. It really does help us out over at SpursRelated. Turn on the notification bell as well while you're down there, and subscribe if you are new. We're on our way to 5,000 subscribers. It would be absolutely brilliant to get there by December. So your support is most appreciated, but like, subscribe, and notice on are all free to do so. But I'm going to get into the chat, and guys, whack your comments and thoughts about the game in the chat as we go along. What's the point, FC, saying same thing happens every season, except the club is broken after only 9 games into the league this season. I'm bored and disinterested. Worst forward line I've ever seen at Spurs. And now Spence and Van der Ven are ignoring their manager. This makes great filming for an Amazon Prime documentary. Yeah, maybe they should get that out. That would be interesting. Logan's in here as always, saying evening, fellas. Big up to both as always. Big up, Logan. He said, if we carry on playing the way we are and not picking up any points in the upcoming games, then Thomas the Tank Engine will not last until Christmas. I'm so bored of watching at the minute. There is genuinely a possibility here, isn't there? That, you know, if we don't get many points in the next sort of 6-7 games and we get to December and we've dropped down to maybe 10th, 11th, 12th, maybe we've had a stinker in the Champions League. I'm hoping this doesn't happen. But Davo, there is a chance that Thomas Frank's going to be under some pressure soon. As early as that sounds, we know what's happened to previous managers with a poor start.
We do. Look, we're sort of in a bit of a tricky situation though, James, because it's sort of like, how many times have we changed manager to see the same shit after 10 games of the first season? We always collapse. Come the October international break, off the back of that is where Tottenham have collapsed under previous regimes, previous managers and stuff like that. You know, it's a real sticking point. Like, at the end of the day, look, I get it. It's been boring watching Tottenham Hotspur. I think, I've got a few stats that I'm going to bring up, in a while, that probably lead to it. And I do think it's more down to tactics, in my personal opinion. But, I mean, at the end of the day, we can sit here and say Frank out, but where has that got us under previous managers when we've got them out the door? Have things changed?
No, it's the squad, isn't it? The squad's a big issue. At the end of the day, I said it in the summer, a lot of people were giving our transfer window sort of 9 out of 10. And I was sitting there firmly and saying probably only a 6 or a 7. And now you look at it and you probably argue it's less than that because of the lack of a left winger, lack of a competent striker, our fullbacks. We've only got 2 fully fit. As soon as you get one injured, Doji's having injury issues, then you've only got Spence and Porro. And even when Doji's, when he's back and everything else, it's still not enough for the 3 competitions. So there's some serious problems with the squad, as we know. But we'll get into things a little bit further. Big up to Ghosted. Thank you for your support as always, mate. He says ENIC is the problem at this club and has been for 25 years. It's hard to say. There has to be some look at ENIC. Obviously, Daniel Levy was only part of the problem for a lot of fans, and maybe the core and the actual direction of the club is obviously massively swung by the ownership rather than the chairman. So time will tell. Certainly in January, if we put things a little bit more right. Brian Hill's in here. Big up Brian Hill. He's saying Brian Hill. It's still got to be a joke, this one. Brian Hill. Looking forward to your analysis, but it was an absolute shit show. I can forgive lack of skill, but not a lack of fight or passion. For Graham Roberts. And you could list so many players that put their sort of heart on their sleeve for Tottenham Hotspur. I saw Sandro, for example, not to be biased because he's been on the channel, of course, but put up a video before the game of him crunching in for a tackle against Chelsea, 15 years ago? And we went on the counter, Gareth Bale down the wing into Adebayor. We don't see that as much anymore. There was a bit of passion and a bit of fight, but it was a lot of squaring up to each other and not much on the football pitch in terms of actual fight, was there? I don't want him to leave or get sacked, but he does. He does need to sort it out. Sorry, Frank. Sorry, Dave. Did you have a point there, mate?
No, I was just going to say, look, I think we're well within our rights to sit here and question, that some of the tactical setup and stuff like that, and well within our question to ask is Frank sort of the right guy to take us on? There's been many examples. Nuno done brilliant at Wolves, came to Tottenham, didn't work out. Graham Potter done well at smaller clubs, went to Chelsea, didn't work out. Could it be the same with Thomas Frank? But I do say to people at the end, this is where I'm a bit torn on it as well. It's like, first of all, it's way too early to start calling for Frank out, in my opinion. But there will come a point, I think, where a decision, might have to be made. Do you back this guy, or do you continue on and sort of let him see out the season and build on it next season and stuff like that? And But like, I do warn people, you can change the manager, but what's going to change at the end of the day? Nothing's changed when we've changed previous managers. Like at the end of the day, right? For instance, everyone blamed Ange for the injuries because of the style of play and everything else last season. Who are they blaming this season? You know what I mean? We had massive problems in attack and defense last season. Still have massive problems this season. You know, under Jose and Conte, problems again underneath them, and everyone made them the butt of the problem. This is what we do as Spurs fans. We keep scapegoating managers, keep making them the responsibility for all the failings at the club. At the end of the day, I understand. They are paid to come in. They're never going to have perfect circumstances for the whole season. At the end of the day, they are paid to get the best out of the circumstances that they find themselves in and find a way to go and win games. But like I said, we can keep calling for managers for their heads and keep blaming them for absolutely everything. But what changes? A lot of the managers actually leave Tottenham and go on to do usually do well elsewhere while we're still stuck in this rut.
Yeah, absolutely. Frank, I'll spin it to you, and then we'll get into some of the slides and the analysis and the tactics that we've broken down on the screenshot analysis board. But Frank, just your thoughts on what Dave's explaining there and suggesting that, you know, we've had managers, unless things change sort of within the club and within the transfer policies and the changes of wage structures and all sorts of things that need to contribute towards pulling towards change for Tottenham. How do you view it, mate?
I think that the club is rotten, to be honest, in many different aspects. I think in part of the club that they're set up quite nicely, but I think, and I don't want to sort of talk about them too much, but when I look at Arteta, and they've spent a lot of money, they've backed him with a lot of money, and they haven't won anything. So it's hard to really. But they're probably, I would suspect, going to win the league this season, and they're looking like a good side now. I really believe this, that if you give Thomas Frank 3 or 4 years and you back him well enough, they can be there or thereabouts. Because I don't think we're in a bad place as a club. I think some of the parts I say are rotten. I think some of the management of the squad is awful. The fact they went into the season, I said this in the summer, the fact they were going into it with 3 fullbacks, we knew that was a problem last season. Why aren't they sorting that out this season? With the amount of games, I mean, I'm not, again, defending them. I think the last week, the amount of travelling they've done in the last week or two, Tottenham, is drastic. They were away at Everton at 4:30 on Sunday night, then away at Newcastle on Wednesday night, and then they got Chelsea. Chelsea were at home on the Saturday the day before, had an extra day of rest then. It's less travelling. Spurs, the players probably aren't recovering properly. They're not training properly, and that's why players get injured, right? I mean, yeah, we seem to get more than any, and that's a concern. And so I think maybe players need to be questioned. Maybe that's why they're at Tottenham. Maybe that's why Destiny Udogie and Pape Sarr or whoever you want to, you know, these sorts of guys aren't at Manchester City and Real Madrid and Barcelona. They're at Spurs because they have something that stops them from being elite, and that is their injury records. I think that's probably more than feasible. I think that's probably why we sometimes get some of these players who we look at and go, these guys are world beaters, but they have something that pulls them back. But I think largely the ownership, until that probably changes, nothing changes. But having said that, we are 5th in the league. They are still unbeaten in the Champions League, deservedly so or not. And I think maybe we're kind of lucky at the moment that I think the quality of the Premier League is on the floor. Whereas I think that the quality of the teams are high. There are maybe that leads to the fact that there are less teams actually running away with consistent points, and that allows us to be in the position we're in. But we've got good players. We have players that will get us out of trouble, which at the moment is beneficial when you're not clicking. And I think that's kind of how we've picked up points so far. I think we have good enough players that will click. And I think there are certainly changes that need to be made, and the manager needs to take some responsibility for that. And there's in no way am I suggesting it's not him, but we've also got an entirely new front three together who need to click, who need to learn. Kolo Muani's only just really come into it, and I think he looks like a good player. I'm quite enjoying watching him, I have to be honest. I think Kudus needs to adapt parts of his game. I think Xavi Simons needs to just learn about the style of the football and the league and everything. So I think there's certainly an adaptation period that we're probably going through. If come January time we're 12th or something, then I think it's a conversation. But I think right now, I think we're getting a little bit too concerned. I get the quality of points fit, and it is a recurring theme, and that's the concern to me. But I think at the moment we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves in terms of how concerned we are personally.
But I think the biggest problem though at the football club is the mentality. In years gone by, it's sort of been set up as a commercial beast rather than winning on the football pitch. And a lot of our best players and a lot of managers have left this football club saying the same thing, that winning doesn't mean everything at Tottenham Hotspur. It's okay to lose games and pick and choose when you want to perform and stuff like that. And I think that's the biggest problem, and that's been set from the top in years gone by. You're hoping that the Lewis family, along with bringing in Vinay and stuff, will sort of change that to a large degree, but that has to come from the top. They have to have that sort of ambition. At the end of the day, we're a club with everything in place. We've got the best stadium in world football. We've got one of the best training complexes that international teams come and use when they come to London and stuff like that. We are set up. Now it's just about trying to change that mentality to win at all costs on the football pitch. And at the end of the day, I think, unfortunately, you're going to have to give the Lewis family the January transfer and the summer transfer window to really know what their true intentions are. We'll know in the summer what problems we've got and how far they've gone to fix it and stuff like that. So for me, I think it really falls down to, if the Lewis family do have ambition to make this club successful on the pitch, which is the sound bites they're putting out through Vinay, they backed it up by putting 100 million into the club and stuff like that. I think then it just comes down to whether people believe Thomas Frank is the guy to sort of help stamp that winning culture in and around the football team and, bring that winning culture to the football side of things. And I think that's where many people will either will sort of end up making their decision, further along the line when it comes to Thomas Frank.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Absolutely, guys. But both of you, with some great points. I'm gonna catch up with chat, and then we'll continue this chat maybe with more of a steer towards how the game was broken down. I mean, it's a difficult game to break down when you have 0.05 xg, but we're gonna try and pull out some of the bits that are just incredibly bad and why it's bad. What's the point? FC says we were told that we signed 4 top signings. Palinha, well, he's been excellent. Let's not get it wrong. Necessary had a great game on Saturday, but has been absolutely fantastic in most other games. Xavi Simons obviously is an issue at the moment. Hasn't hit the ground running. Doesn't look like he's up to speed. Doesn't look like he's up to the physicality of the league yet. Hopefully, it's just a matter of time. But yeah, bit disappointing so far. Mawani, as Frank was saying, has been pretty decent. He's obviously getting back up to speed, and Kudus has been fantastic. But let's be honest, didn't have a good game on Saturday either. Frank is still struggling badly. Cowardly save football with little to no emphasis on the attack. Frank can't even get our midfield to control games, yet we blame the players. What's happening in training? Tottenham Trev's football talk says, shut the F up. Thank you very much. The players are awful. There are idiots in here. We're just discussing the football, mate. If it's not your cup of tea, you don't have to, of course, stick around. But please do put your comment in and your thoughts without absolutely abusing everyone. That would be absolutely fantastic. Yokman Yunus SN Sung Jin. I hope I've got your name wrong. If I haven't, I am very sorry. It says, hi, everyone. Big up, COYS. Do you think Frank can win us the league title in 5 years? I'm going to send this one to Frank.
As I say, I think if he's backed properly and efficiently and well, that Spurs can be in a position to certainly compete in the next 5 years. Yeah, whether or not, I mean, it obviously depends on what else is around us and how powerful other clubs are around us, of course. But I genuinely believe, and I mean this. I mean, as I say, something I kind of left out a minute ago, that he's come into a side that in the last 2 years has conceded 126 Premier League goals in the last 2 seasons. We've conceded 8 in the first 10. Now, if my maths is right, which I want to hope it is, that is by the end of the season, we're looking at between 30 and 40 goals on sort of paper. Now, I imagine we'll probably concede maybe a few more than that. But the point is, the numbers are going to be coming down. Now, that is to build a house, you need decent foundations, right? That's very simple, and that's something that we've said enough over the years. I mean, Pochettino said it, and you can keep going through. I agree that certain points of it need to be better going forward. But those foundations are certainly in place, I think, or certainly being put into place. I just think we need to be backed up with more. He needs to be backed up with more investment, and you know, I think we are. It's very easy to sit there and say he's been backed. He's been backed. That's amazing. We signed a couple of good players in the summer who I'm pleased with and I like, but it's not about doing it in one. It's about continuously doing it, and so. It's down to January to go again, and it's down to again next summer to go again. As I say, I'm yet to really believe that the Lewis family are going to do much different, because you know it's been their family's power for the last 25 years, and nothing has ever really taken place there. So yeah, I mean, I guess we'll see how the next couple of years play out. If they do keep the club, which again, I would be very, very shocked if the Lewis family still own Tottenham in 5 years' time.
Yeah, very good point, mate. Very, very well analysed. Dave, I'll get your thoughts on that point in a minute. It's a good question. And guys, if you have some good questions, I can see the numbers are building and the chat is getting quicker and quicker, which is absolutely amazing. Keep whacking your comments in, guys. It looks like a really good stream so far. Over 75 of you in the house. And guys, please do make sure you are smashing the like button because it does help out massively. I know it's annoying, keep asking probably, but if you hit the like button, turn on the notification bell and subscribe if you are new, that does help us out massively. And if you want to skip the queue with a super chat, I think it's as little as 99p or 199, you can do so as well. Great questions coming in. So if you want to skip the queue, you can do that. And as well, if you become a member, you also get priority in the chat and you can come on the stream and have your say in other shows as well. But Simon Cohen's in here, says, evening boys, hope you are well. It is, I'm glad I missed the game. It was my birthday. Happy birthday to you, Simon, mate. Hope you had a good one, bar the result, mate. But yeah, thanks for coming in. As always, good question from here from Rainier. It says, why can't the fans give chance for a rebuild? We can't keep changing managers the way we are. I think there's definitely a balance on that. And I think, yeah, it seems to be the cycle. I think Frank hit the nail on the head, saying it's rotten to the core. It seems to be a never-ending cycle. I feel like I talk about it every single year on this podcast. What's the point? FC says, I've got my Kleenex to soak up the salty tears. And Tottenham's Trev's football come back here, says, I can't believe our fans react to us losing to Chelsea like it's not happened before. See, this is my point, and hopefully I don't go off on a rant on this, and I'm sure Dave and Frank probably agree with me on this, but it's not the fact we lost to Chelsea, and I think Frank mentioned it as well. It's like we're not expecting to necessarily beat Chelsea. It's the way we go about it. It's the way we do it. It's the way we roll over for them and have no spine and no fight. And 0.05 XG, we're about to get the stats up, suggests to me that that is something to be surprised about because it's absolutely gutless. And when you're in a London derby, you should be putting absolutely everything on the line. And for me, I don't care if we lost 4-0. If we had a decent shot at it and we thought, actually, we could have scored 3 or 4 goals, it's a different story. But losing 1-0 when it should have been 3 or 4-0 minimum, and we didn't even look like scoring once, that's a big problem for me. That is a very, very big problem, and it needs to be addressed as soon as possible. Dave, anything to add on what I've just said there?
Yeah, well, it's also off the back of him deprioritising the Carabao Cup game during the week to Newcastle and prioritising the Chelsea game in terms of his team selection. And then, you know, he said in the pre-match press conference, we're going to have a right go at Chelsea. We're going to make sure the fans are on the edge of the seat. Now, I think fans were on the edge of their seat, but more so in anger, frustration and disappointment rather than the way I thought Frank was expecting. So when you're prioritising one game over another and that's the performance you put in, I mean, fans are going to be frustrated. Fans are going to be pissed off. Fans are going to be annoyed. And at the end of the day, when you know, pragmatic football or the defensive football doesn't work, fans just naturally have such a short tenure for it, you know, than what they do with someone that's trying to play a bit more of an attacking brand of football and stuff like that. You've seen it with Jose, Conte, Nuno. They lost the dressing room they lost the fan base very, very quickly when results when you don't get results playing this style of football. It's just natural.
Couldn't agree more, mate. Couldn't agree more. And I didn't agree with him deprioritising the Carabao Cup. I thought it was a terrible decision to rest so many players. And I don't know. I would have prioritised that game over the Chelsea game, especially if we played like the way we did. I mean, we could have played the youngsters and they'd have probably had a better shot. Falling asleep on the edge of the seats, more like Dave in a coma saying, but didn't everyone say Frank is the coach and he can coach all the players that Ange can't? This is where the divide comes in the fan base. You get the Ange fans coming in, and I'm not saying you're wrong, by the way, in a coma. I'm just saying, you know, a lot of people defending the fact that Ange got sacked, which was arguably the wrong decision.
I do get what you're saying, James, but I think when it comes to evaluating Thomas Frank, you have to ignore it. You know, the previous season under Ange Postecoglou and stuff. Like, this is a part of the problem that is sort of putting pressure on Frank. Is, you know, a lot of maybe people who did like Ange Postecoglou maybe looking to settle scores when it comes to Thomas Frank, and I don't think it's quite fair. I think you should judge Thomas Frank based on what he's doing and what he's getting out of this squad, rather than on, you know, what previous managers have done or haven't done.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, mate. And then it becomes toxic about, comparing previous seasons. You start comparing Pochettino even and Ange and Conte and Mourinho, and then it becomes silly. But we have to judge him on what he's got in front of him, what squad he's got, and how he's performing with them, and how the players are, if he's even getting a tune out of the players, that's super important. I'm going to stop with the chat, the live chat for just a minute. Keep putting your questions in. We're 25 minutes in and we haven't even got up some of our slides we have prepared. But guys, this was the player ratings. Just firstly, Frank, this as in Frank Thomas, not Thomas Frank. Frank, this is from FootMob, right?
Yeah.
Personally, I don't agree with these ratings at all. I think none of them should have been above a 6, maybe other than Vicario. Davo, just at a first glance, obviously Bergvall got injured and Xavi Simons came on. It's probably saving his blushes that he's not on this team sheet, because he had probably got about a 2.5. Davo, who was your, if you can pick 2 or 3 Spurs players that had a good game, who would you have gone with?
Yeah, I think Vicario once again was absolutely exceptional, but I think we're saying that far too often now in recent weeks, which maybe shows the defensive solidity that we once relied upon to be able to go and win games is waning. And it's why we've only won 1 game off the back of the international break. One in our last 5 we won. Because the Romero's been out injured and that defensive solidity isn't there as much. I think Mickey Van de Ven's rating, to be honest with you, I think is harsh. I don't blame him for the goal. I actually blame Xavi Simons. I think it was a shit back pass and he put Van de Ven in trouble. I think Luani, again, I've been reading a lot today in terms of reports. Everyone's saying he had a wolf a game. I mean, when the guy's just being launched 60-yard balls, straight up in the air, direct. I mean, what do you want the guy to do? I'd argue, I think he made the best out of a bad situation, to be honest with you. Look, Mo Kudus was disappointing. Papa Matsar didn't really do much. Bentancur didn't really have an effect. Paulinho, 1 ball, but in terms of in possession, gave it away a lot. I think, to be honest with you, Vicario is the only one that can really walk off the pitch with his head held high, and that sort of sums up the situation that we found ourselves in on the weekend.
Completely agree, mate. I completely agree. I mean, yeah, Kudus with a 6.8 is interesting. I don't know where FootMob get their ratings. It's based off stats of the game and not certain aspects. But Frank, I know you rated Kolo Muani's performance. We chatted offline about this. Anything to add on what Dave said there? Would you say that Kolo Muani was one of our better players, and is Vicario just the only one that can, as Dave said, go off the pitch with his head held high?
Yeah, I think so. I think I agree with kind of everything you said. I thought Kolo Muani kind of got a lot of unnecessary backlash. I mean, I've got a photo to bring up that I got the guy literally got 0 help. Yeah. And I thought he worked hard. I think he created our only actual chance of the game, which was sort of when he brought it down and took it a little bit and then played it to Kudus, so he shot saved and back end of the first half. Again, Van de Ven, I don't really blame him for the goal. Vicario, I thought was fantastic as a shot stopper. I thought Pedro Porro was probably the worst I've ever seen him. I thought Porro had an absolute stinker, to be honest. I mean, I looked at his numbers afterwards. I don't think he had 1 successful cross out of 6, I want to say. He gave the ball away a lot. He was poor, really poor. And I think we're going to see Spencer Udogie start. It wouldn't shock me at all soon. I think we missed Romero massively, like building up. They let Danso have the ball. And he didn't. And I don't blame Danso for this. He's not a ball playing centre half, but they let him have the ball. Didn't really know what to do with it, and that probably cost us a little bit. I thought Sarr. I actually forgot Pape Sarr was playing for a lot of it. To be honest, the guy was non-existent for most of it. And that's what I kind of think is a little bit frustrating, because it's all well and good us saying, Sarr has to play. But I think when he gets these opportunities, he has to really prove that he's worthy of playing. And whilst he was at the start of the season, he was excellent. Since then, he has gone off the boil. So, yeah, I mean, I think Bergvall coming off early probably hindered us a little bit. I don't think we would have been as lackluster if he had stayed on the pitch. But yeah, in fact, the only other one I thought actually had a decent game was I thought Bentancur until he came off was actually pretty decent. Bar the fact that he probably could have been sent off for the tackle on Enzo, I thought his general game was actually pretty good.
I was about to say I agree with everything. I don't agree with the Bentancur one. I thought he was poor. Davo, what did you think on Bentancur?
Wasn't his best game this season, to be fair. He's lucky not to be sent off. Yeah, look, I don't think any of the midfield really had any presence, to be honest with you. It's one of them games. I'm not going to single one out as being slightly better than the other. As a trio, as a four, it just didn't work. It was a shit show.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We'll move on. We'll talk about well, I don't want to talk about this for too long, actually. But as I said, at 0.05 xg, this website saying 0.1, which is not much difference. And Chelsea with almost a 4 xg, most of the possession, 5 times the shots, 9 times the shots on target, and six big chances against 0 big chances. Probably the biggest chance to make it 2-0 was right at the end when we had a free kick in the 92nd minute. We decided to play it short. We then punted it, and then they counter-attacked it from a loose ball. And I can't remember who it was that skied it, one of their wingers. But I mean, it should have been 2-0. It should have been 3-0. It should have been probably 3 or 4-0, as you can see from this. So yeah, not much. But I guess the thing that maybe calms us down slightly, and what a few people in the chat have pointed out, is that we are somehow still 5th. We've got one of the best, or if not the best, away record in the league. It's just our home form with 3 wins in 19 in the Premier League in 2025 coming from home. I mean, it's absolutely shambolic, this home record. It makes me never want to go to the Spurs Stadium, if I'm being honest, and I go quite a lot. So, yeah, Frank, I'll go to you on this one. Do you think this is sort of do you think we deserve to be 5th, or do you think it's a bit of a flattering sight considering how sort of bad we've been in, I'd say, over 50-60% of the games?
I think it's slightly flattering, yeah. I think it's slightly flattering, but away from home, I think they've been good. I mean, I worked out the numbers the other night for the home games, and take out Doncaster, just the league sort of alone. Doncaster and Villarreal obviously excluded. They've had just under 5 expected goals at home this season in the league, and 2.3 of those were, or 2.4 of those were against Burnley. So you take out that Burnley game, and the other 4 home games they've had 2.5 expected goals. It is not good enough. They have an issue. I think what Thomas Frank probably hasn't yet adapted to is he built a side at Brentford that were tough to play and were fantastic at home, but they were fantastic, one, because the pressure was never particularly on them. They were probably, for very few games a season, actually favourites to win, unless they played at home to maybe the bottom 3 or something, and that in itself was a problem. But his system there relied on the opposition making a mistake and then you capitalising on that mistake. And that's fantastic. That's fine. And that works when the pressure's off. Because if you're at Brentford and you lose to Fulham and Everton back to back, no one really bats an eyelid, because the fact you're staying up is a success in itself. When you do it to Tottenham, and I know we haven't lost those 2 games, but when you do it to Tottenham, or at Tottenham, it's a different pressure. It's a different world. And you have to, for a bigger side at home in the Premier League, you have to be proactive. And currently we're too reactive to things, and he's too reactive to things. And so that's something that I think he can change, and I think he's learning the hard way at the moment. But yeah, I mean, that needs to, because at the moment, as I say, when you look at what we're scoring goals and creating things from small margins, and that's a little bit of an issue. Like the Everton game was 2 goals from a set piece and a goal when they had kind of switched off Everton and were going for the game. And the only other chance we had in that game was a mistake from Tarkowski. Well, the only other sort of good chance we had in that game was a mistake from Tarkowski. And you can keep going through that mistakes and that they're the sort of the margins that Thomas Frank capitalised on, and that's fantastic. But you need to have an actual philosophy and plan behind what you're trying to do. And right now, I don't think we do going forward, and that's the sort of concern I think in this. But that's not to say that can't change. I just think he's learning that the hard way. But you have to hope for someone who is an intelligent man that he is taking this on board and going, this is the issue and this has to change. The concern for me is that we are, however many games into the season now, 16 games or whatever into the season, all competitions, and we're not seeing him turn around and go, this is we're changing this, or we're altering this, for someone that is tactically astute, or so we thought he was.
Yeah, absolutely. Dave-O, anything to add on Frank's points there?
Yeah, look, I think. Look, for me, when it comes to league position, I think the fixtures favoured us to be up around the top end of the table. We had a lot of the easier teams at the start of the Premier League. Even in terms of the Champions League, we've had a lot of the easier teams. Have we made the best of of that situation. I don't think so. I think they'll drop points away to Bodo, drop points at home to Wolves. Teams like that have sort of let us down. And, you know, you look at the fixtures that we've got coming up. I mean, after the, I think mid-December is where we'll see where we're truly at as a team this year. Or I think that will sort of truly replicate what we're fighting for in terms of the league this year. And I think it's been similar under previous managers. We've had a new manager bounce, got off to a good start in the first so many games, and then all of a sudden things drop off. I think the one big thing people isn't really highlighting is we've won one game in our last 5 since the return of the international break. And I think for me, that's a concern, and it shows the trend that we're going in. And we've still got Man United to come, Arsenal to come. We've got Newcastle away to come. We've got PSG, Dortmund, Frankfurt in the Champions League and stuff like that. So I do think by not picking up more points earlier on in the season has sort of maybe led to this being a tricky situation. Our only saving grace is that the likes of Chelsea has been slow to get going this year. The likes of City have been slow to get going this year. That's why we're still up in and around where we are. But the true mark in this Tottenham team will be mid-December once you've sort of nearly played everyone once, and we'll see where we are. But on this run, I don't think Thomas Frank has helped himself, to be brutally honest with you. I think, we scored 1 goal from open play since the return of the international break, which is nowhere near good enough. And I think, am I surprised? No. When Frank came in, he said he'd be setting up the defensive structure and stuff like that, and he hasn't worked on any of the forward play, and we're seeing the repercussions of that now. And I think one big flaw in his sort of the way he's come in here at Tottenham is that he probably, at Brentford, he had 7 days in between most games because he bowed out the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup at the first time of asking a lot of the time just to concentrate on the league, which meant he could get his game plan around, which meant he could work on individuals. He could, over the course of the season, he could work on different stages at Tottenham Hotspur because of the size of the beast and we're playing European football and stuff. You've got a game midweek most weeks, which means you get one training session on the pitch, which now means he doesn't really have the time on the training pitch to really address our attacking issues. And for me, I think it's been by design by Thomas Frank. Since pre-season, we have been relying on set pieces. We haven't been fun to watch or rip teams open apart for, all the way since pre-season. And, I don't give Thomas Frank a free pass going forward because I do think it's his tactics that is not helping. Look, I'm not going to put the deficiencies or the flaws of Richarlison, Johnson, Tell, or Odegaard on the guy. But let's be real. People are saying he hasn't been backed. He was given Mo Kudus, a player that every Spurs fan was happy to sign, a player of real talent and real quality. He's been given Kolo Muani, a player that came on and made a massive impact in a World Cup final, a player that scored goals everywhere he's been. He hasn't got one shot on target since he's arrived at Tottenham Hotspur. And I get he's been injured for a large part of it. But the last 3 games do not have one shot on goal, and that's simply because we're not putting him in positions to be able to get goals. And then you also look at Xavi Simons. Everyone could sit here now and say he's weak, he's this, that, and the other. But it was a player that many Spurs fans were happy to get that's shown to be quality at every club he's been at. So then you do have to ask the questions. He's been given more forward players to work with than previous, and we look worse. So then at what point does it come down to tactics? You go back and look at every game we've played, everything is defeat. Even when it goes into the front line, it always comes back. And the reason why? You don't have any runners running in behind. We've put 4 through balls in behind all season. And when you compare that to the likes of, Arsenal, Man City, Man United, Liverpool, they're in their 30s. You look at Crystal Palace, they put in 27 this year. Even they're more adventurous going forward than what we are. Do you think they have better forward options than what we do to select from? So for me, at what point do you start questioning tactics? Because, look, to be fair, Richarlison isn't a great player, but when he was fit under Ange Postecoglou, he scored goals, because we put him in positions. Johnson, although we know his deficiency as a winger, under Ange Postecoglou, he scored goals, which meant the system helped the forward players out and sort of covered a lot of their deficiencies. Right now, you got to have to ask questions of the system for me if you're bringing in players, 3 players across that front line, and he can't get anything out of any of them. At what point do you start questioning the tactics and the setup?
Mate, I completely agree. Go on, Frank.
Can I just add on really quick? I think and I totally agree. I think the kind of point is when a couple of players aren't playing well, you can question them and question whatever to do with them. I think when none of them are performing well, or the majority aren't performing well, is when you've probably got to turn around and go, there's a common theme here, and it's the tactics, it's the system.
But he hasn't got anything out of any one of them across the front.
But the only player I would say has probably, I think, gone up a level since he's come in is Mickey van der Ven. But that was probably because since last year, as I say, 126 goals conceded in the last 2 years. If you solidify the back line a little bit, you make them look the good players that they are, the two centre halves. And so I don't think that was a difficult job. I think the rest of them all look pretty poor, and that is the biggest concern, I think.
Well, I just think, when it comes to the defence, though, naturally, I always said the talent was there, even under Ange Postecoglou. I said, the manager with, a more defensive mind would get a lot better out of him, because I do believe that talent is there. So him coming in and some of the defensive players improving, well, I'm not surprised, because I thought they would anyway. It's, my big question around Thomas Frank, especially when we signed him, was, at Brentford, he had some of the lowest possession stats in the league. Which was a huge concern of mine. Spurs fans won't tolerate it, and we're seeing that as the games go on. It's becoming more and more frustrating. But B, would he be able to get this attack line clicking and flowing to be able to go and win games ultimately, which would keep him in the job and give him a sort of the foundation to build upon? And that was one of the big questions I've had. And so far, he hasn't. He's just been relying on long balls, throw-ins, free kicks, and stuff like that from open play. We were absolutely dreadful to watch. And by the way, the bar was set so low in previous years, by that. So it's not something that he, even if there was an increment sort of improvement, Spurs fans would have took it. But the fact that there's been a regression is a huge concern on Thomas Frank's behalf. I'm not being funny, but, I see all these tactics, all these magnets, and I think there's too much made of them. What changes have we seen?
Yeah. I think for me, just trying to simplify some of the way we go forward, I think there was a diagram we did a couple of weeks ago, and it seems to be a reoccurring theme. Every time we go forward, we sort of play it out from the back from the goal kick normally. We do this short pass thing that Van de Ven takes the goal kick, gives it to Vicario, and then we play it along the back line, right? It eventually comes right, because we're always going right to Kudus and Porro. It goes to Porro. Porro plays it down the line to Kudus. And the reason why probably Kudus isn't taking any shots on target is because he's the guy that has to beat the player and do something with it. Now, you could argue he should be beating his player and maybe putting in a shot, but he's almost coming so deep to then run at the team. It's so obvious. Like, it's so obvious to defend against Tottenham at the moment.
He's also being double marked at times,
exactly,
James, which is a huge problem.
Yeah, no, exactly, and it's frustrating.
But also to add to the point, though, like, you would argue some of these four players would have more goals if they were instructed to shoot on site. You look at when Thomas Frank was at Brentford, I think they finished third from bottom in terms of lowest shots from outside. They finished the bottom with the lowest shots from outside the box. I think they had 130 odd fewer than any other team in the Premier League from outside the box. And you look at it this season, we're third from bottom in that, in terms of we do not shoot from outside the box. So the problem is, it has to be down to tactics. To Frank Thomas' point, if you're not getting anything out of anyone, at what point do you question the setup? Like, we can all sit here and say we need Maddison back. He's not here for the season. He's out. He can't come back and contribute. Fans can sit here and say we need Kulu back. Them same fans were the ones that would have wanted to sell him a couple of seasons ago, saying he was never good enough and stuff like that. At the end of the day, when you're not taking shots from outside of the box, when you only have 4 through balls and teams like Crystal Palace and that have a lot more attempted, and stuff like that, at what point do you start looking at the tactics? Like I said, I'm not putting the flaws of Richarlison, Johnson, Udeberg, but he's been given more help in this department, and he's had a better summer transfer window than what many managers have had at Tottenham Hotspur in years gone by. He has to be making a better fist of it. I'm not saying get him out, but I think it's fair to say he's got to make better fist of what he's got.
No, I agree with you both. Frank, I know you were about to make a point, mate. Do you want to just quickly go on that? I'm conscious of time with the gone.
Very briefly, kind of what you were saying about the build-up, and I think what also impacts us, as you say, about going down the right, is it is actually our only option. That I think Jed Spence, and I've said this a couple of times before, I think this is becoming a problem, and it's becoming so easy to kind of play against, and it made it even easier at the weekend with Kevin Danso, because the ball would go out to Van de Ven, who'd play it out to Spence, and occasionally he plays it with the outside of his foot, but he's not going to go down the line with his left foot. It's very rare that he does. He might drive inside, or he's going to turn back. More often than not, he turns back. He turns back, it comes back, it moves out right again. And so all you had to do was prevent Jed Spence from moving inside, and the ball would be with Kevin Danso within probably 10 seconds. And Danso was not comfortable enough as a ball-playing centre-half. And Chelsea knew that. Chelsea, it was very easy. The ball then goes played to Porro, it goes smash down the line, and it gets recycled, and Chelsea have the ball back again. And that was all it was. And I think some of that will change. Dodgy has to stay fit, or they have to go and sign another left-back as well. I think that's important. I think symmetry makes more of a difference than sometimes people maybe realise. that I think having an actual left back will make a difference, because the amount of times that I question things, I see someone making a run and Spence doesn't find it, he turns back, and all of a sudden we're under pressure on that right-hand side from being slow and ponderous. And so I think that will make a difference as well once, hopefully, Udogie hopefully will stay fit now. Whether or not he will, I mean, it's something I've been asking for a couple of years now, but whether or not he will, I think that will make a difference if he does, if he is back.
I think it will. I think we still lack a left winger. I still think we lack the Kudus on the left that can beat his man and make things happen. And that is why we are so one-sided in terms of going down the right-hand side, and it becomes slow and it becomes tedious. But anyway, we will see. In terms of talking about Spence, you brought me onto it nicely, Frank, in terms of Spence going around the outside. How about Spence going around the outside of Frank at the end of the game? Obviously, you guys probably have seen it. If you haven't, go and check out the video. But basically, Mickey van der Ven and in particular, Jed Spence completely snubbed the manager when he was going up to them at the end of the game after the handshakes. He went, Spence sort of flapping his arms around of Mickey van der Ven and him both walking past him, sort of very toxic. And then Thomas Frank, as you can see from the photos, just stood there staring at them both. Apparently, since, according to Thomas Frank and the press conference today, Mickey and Jed have come into his office yesterday unprompted to say sorry. They were just frustrated. I don't want to go over this too much, and I know it is sort of the title of the video is Frank losing the dressing room. And guys, please get your thoughts on that sort of question in the comments now. And also, while you're in the comments, smash a number 1 in the chat if you agree with what we were saying about the tactics being an issue, or smash a number 2 if you think it's just down to perhaps the quality of the players. Little engagement piece, get your 1s and 2s. 1s for tactics problems, 2s for just quality of players. But Dave, I'm going to go to you on this one briefly, mate. What did you make of this? I saw you react to it on your Twitter Reacts video earlier. Just starting to get a bit toxic, isn't it, mate?
Look, what I will say is it doesn't look good. You know, look, he can say unprompted. Yeah, maybe unprompted by the manager team or by him, but I've no doubt that maybe Romero's got the grips with the situation and told him to get in there and apologise. But for me, look, it's hard to say, you know, whether they snubbed Frank or whether they were just frustrated at their own performance. I think it's probably a bit of both. I think they would have been frustrated at their performance, but I think they also would have been very frustrated with the tactics and the setup. Like, what was the game plan in possession? Bar pump it long and isolate Moani. There was absolutely no game plan, so they weren't set up to win. And I think, you know, when you see the frustrations of the home fans, which the home fans made them know at halftime and full time. And look, they've been here before in recent years. I think they're still sort of standing there going, well, look, what's the point in going over and clapping the fans and for them to boo and shout and tell us how shit we are, this, that, and the other. I think in general, you know, I wouldn't want to be in that position personally. But at the end of the day, I think as a player, you should always go over and applaud the fans for making the effort to turn up, you know, for putting the money into the club that, you know, has helped bring you here, that helps pay your wages and stuff like that. So I think they should always show the respect to the fans. But I think just the optics doesn't look good. I think the optics leaves open the question, are all the players with him? Are all the players on board? You know, is there discontent within the dressing room? I think it leaves that question open just purely by that footage coming out. Are they ever going to come out and say, you know, do I ever expect Frank to come out and say, oh, yeah, I've lost a couple of guys in the dressing room? No, he's never, ever going to do that. So it's going to be covered up, you know, in terms of the pre-match press conference and stuff like that. But let's see, you know, if it's something that continues to happen, if other players start to do it and stuff like that, but it just doesn't look good. It leaves the question open and puts it out there. And once that's out there, it's very, very hard then to sort of get a grip of it and sort of quieting down that noise. Usually after every defeat, it will grow, and people will sort of, you know, focus on that a hell of a lot more. So I don't think Spence or Van der Ven have really put Frank in a great position moving forward by doing that.
No, it definitely makes it more vulnerable, in my opinion, especially if that you know trickles down and other players seem to think they can disrespect the manager. I think it's personally completely unacceptable. I mean, I don't care if you're frustrated with the team and you're frustrated with the result, you're frustrated with whoever. You don't disrespect your manager. You just can't. You can't do it, and especially not in open sight with at the end of the game where people are watching the players go off and the cameras are on you, etc. Frank, anything to add about this Thomas Frank and Spence and Van der Ven situation?
Yeah, I mean, as you both kind of said, the optics of it are bad. It's not a good look. I think it's probably a mix of, listen, if you've just played badly and you're being booed and you're being this and that, the last thing you probably want, and I'm not backing up, but the last thing you probably want is to be told that or to be lectured about something cool. And you see Pep do it all the time, where he's, holding someone by the neck and he's telling them that they're fantastic or they should have done this or that. And that's the last thing you want if you, I would suggest, if you just play badly. And so from that point of view, I can kind of get it. I think it's poor. I think it's in bad taste. I don't think it's great, but I think it's also just a kind of initial reaction to something bad that has happened. I think that now that time it's sort of blown over a little bit, and hopefully that time has passed, and hopefully now it's something they realise was wrong. The obviously, as you say, it's easy to cover it up, and it was always going to be covered up. But this quote kind of suggests that they've realised that they're sort of the bad taste in what they've done, because it's not great, and it's not a great look.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Guys, let us know what you think about that situation in the comments below. If you're watching on repeat, of course, please do as well. Make sure you let us know in the comments. I reply to all the comments. We're going to do a quick, I'm conscious of time. I knew this was going to happen. We've been talking for very long on all these subjects. We haven't even got the screenshots up yet. So we'll go through that very, very quickly for like literally 5-10 minutes. But guys, please do make sure you are smashing the like, turning the notification bell on, and subscribing to the stream if you are new. And we get also Dave's channel link in the description. I'm sure most of you already subscribed today, but if there's any of you that don't subscribe to the Irish Hotspur, please do so when I put that link in the comments as well, to big up Dave for his time today as well. But Frank, over to you very quickly. We'll discuss a couple of these and maybe we'll do an offline video because, again, conscious of time here. But just quickly, Frank, you've got this screenshot here of Moani on the ball with about 3 Chelsea players around him, and I guess little support is probably your point about him being isolated, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we got a couple of photos. Sorry, this was the only chance we had in the game. Colin Moani gets a little bit lucky in that Reece James, but sorry, and I should point out as well, you create your own luck, and he worked hard, and so he got lucky off the back of working hard, so that's good. But Reece James comes off the back of his leg, it bounces out, and Colin Moani has the opportunity to be able to drive with it. He does really well. He drives into sort of this space here, and then plays a nice ball out to Hamid Kudus, who has his shot saved by Robert Sanchez, and that was the only sort of move we crafted all game, and that came from, as I say, getting a little bit lucky, and Colin Moani working hard. But the problem for me is that when he's headering the ball, when he's looking to head the ball, and it ends up bouncing backwards, and he's able to turn, Xavi Simons was within. I mean, he's the closest to him, but it was a bigger distance than they are now. And other than that, there was no one near. I mean, there was a quote from Jan Vertonghen when under Pochettino, when they said, I can't remember the official distance, but he said that him and Harry Kane were always a certain distance apart. Always. I can't remember what that distance was, however many yards. But if he moved a certain way, Tongan would move as well, and vice versa. And so that they knew that they were always in those same places. And this is where Colin Moani is struggling now, because every time the ball gets pumped along to Colin Moani, Simmons might be there, Kudus might be there, Pape Sarr is occasionally there, but I mean, as I say, I forgot he was playing half of it the other day. And so that in itself is a problem. They need to have someone closer to him. I do wonder if when we get to the point where Solanke's fit, if he might even try 2 up top. I think they'd work brilliantly together, actually. One be able to hold it, Solanke be able to hold it, Colin Moani being a runner, and vice versa. I think could work really well, actually. And could be a dynamic that I'd be excited to see. I really hope that's Thomas Frank's clueless and not me. That comment.
I think he is. You keep saying about Frank needs to be sacked.
and unless he wants me to lose my job on here. But no, that is kind of the only real frustrating part for me, because I think Colin Moani's working hard enough. And as I say, you create your own luck. The harder you work, the luckier you get, and he's getting some luck. But it's not quite coming off because he's not really getting that help.
Sure.
In terms of defensively, when this works, if it works, please work. There we go. There's a couple of points. There's one defensive point and then one other sort of going forward point I want to talk about.
Sure.
This is obviously the goal. Mickey van der Ven on the ball here, Xavi Simons here, and Caicedo, who does excellently well for the goal.
Brilliant, by the way, Caicedo. Got as much as it hurts me to say, Chelsea. I mean, he's really come good for Chelsea, hasn't he? He started off a bit slow, but he's probably one of the best midfielders in the league at the moment.
Yeah, he's fantastic. He's fantastic, and he does really well. My first initial thought is, and the bit that kind of frustrates me, is Xavi Simons should be back. He should be a little bit back. Give him actually a bit of space, Van der Ven, to make his choice.
Give him an outward ball.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think Kolo Muani out of your picture and Pape Sarr here. One of them should move into this area here to move down the line and allow Van der Ven to play that ball out round there into that space. They don't allow that, and that is poor. As I say, it's the same sort of thing as the Jan Vertonghen thing I mentioned a minute ago. That they've always used to being, certainly under Pochettino, within 20 yards of each other or whatever that number was. That they always knew where someone would be, and so when someone moved across, the other would move with them. And so this is obviously about adapting, and Xavi Simons maybe not understanding that yet. And he plays Xavi Simons a really poor ball back to Mickey van der Ven, which is short. It's not good enough. Van der Ven turns inside. Probably should try and turn outside, but he turns inside. Again, I'm not blaming him. Jed Spence gives the ball away as well prior to this, which is really poor. And we lose it in trying to do a bit of skill. I don't know if you thought he was Ronaldinho in the middle there, but it's poor. As I say, the ball back from Simons is poor to Van der Ven. He loses it. Caicedo, as I say, does really well. And then both Bentancur and Danso come over, and Pedro is free in the middle to bury it. And it was just really poor. It was just really, really poor. And then kind of to finish off, I know this is one that frustrated. I know you sent this to me earlier on, and it was one I'd kind of forgotten about. I think I'd chosen to sort of forget it. Bear in mind the time here, right? It's the 92nd minute. You've got under 4 minutes now until the end of the game. And Vicario takes a free kick, which he plays into Jed Spence here instead of going long. He plays it into Jed Spence. Jed Spence then panics, doesn't really know what to do with it. Again, one thing I really have a frustration with and a problem with is there is nobody in that team, bar maybe Mohamed Kudus and Bentancur occasionally, that wants to take any responsibility ever. That wants to take the ball and go, I'm going to keep hold of the ball. And
you've got to take a risk. It's the 93rd minute in a game where we've had pretty much no shots on goal. I mean, you've got to take a risk.
They're all slightly scared to make mistakes. Within 11 seconds of that last clip, you see there, we're 11 seconds later, the ball gets played back to Vicario. The boos sounded loud, and the ball was played into Robert Sanchez's hands for the umpteenth time in the game. I mean, it literally, I can't remember us putting in a ball that Robert Sanchez didn't deal with, and he is one of the weaker goalkeepers in the Premier League by some way as well. He's a pretty low quality goalkeeper, and we made him look like,
for a top six side, he's the worst one.
Yeah, and we made him look like Victor Valdez. I mean, it was poor. It was really poor, and that kind of was the story of it all. Everything was sloppy, everything was slow, everything was poor. No one wanted to take any responsibility to try and get us forward, to try and take us forward, to try and push us on. And yeah, all in all, pretty dismal.
Yeah, very well summed up. We sped through that, Frank, but yeah, nail on the head with most of that, mate. Well, all of that. Dave-O, anything to add with those points, especially at the end there with that absolutely terrible free kick where we just decided to play it short and then go back and then get counter-attacked and nearly conceded again, didn't we?
I mean, that sort of sums up the game, right? You know,
yeah.
What was the game plan? They didn't even know what to do with the free kick on 92 minutes. You know, everyone's gone up, and Jed Spence and Kudus try and play it short between them and make an absolute balls up of it for us to only pump it long anyway for the goalkeeper to come and claim it. But my big problem in general was if we're not good from set pieces, we don't really go and win games of football. So why didn't the set piece coach change up the set pieces at half time and say, right, every single corner we've took has gone into his hands. Let's change it up. Let's do a different routine. Let's try this. There was none of that. They just continued to let them put the ball into Robert Sanchez's hands all game. So, you know, for me, it's like, what was the set piece coach doing? He changed it up. You know, he he came out and took massive credit for one that Sarr scored just after halftime, earlier on in the season. Oh, yeah, we changed it up. We told them to be here. Okay, well, you faced the scrutiny. You didn't change it up against Chelsea. You allowed everyone to go into Robert Sanchez's hands. Not good enough from the coaching team. And this is my point. They've got all these iPads. We constantly see a big thing made out of it. All the tactics, all these little pads. Players are getting 6-7 minutes instructions before they enter the fucking football pitch. And that's the shit we were served up. And they couldn't change up a set-piece routine between them. I mean, come on.
Yeah, spot on, mate. Spot on. Just so frustrating. I think you said at the start, summed up the game, that end free kick. I nearly tore my hair out. Spurs side chat. Big up. He's saying we want our Levy back. That's about where we end the stream, I think.
If we're coming back down to that, then we're done as a football club.
Well, it might be a case that we need to sort the board out as well. But anyway, that's enough for another video. Lars Martin's in here, one of our members. Big up with the little badge. We'll get some custom badges sorted as well. But if you do want to become a member and you want to support the channel in any way, shape, or form, there is the membership option down below in the description, and there should be a join button as well. It's $2.99 a month. You can come on this channel, have your say on stream, and also you get priority in the chat. Lars Martin said, would like to say this was a bad day at the office, but this was coming. So many areas of concern in that starting 11. I think you're right, mate. But Lars, we did sum up some of that earlier on in the video. If you wanted to go check that out. Guys, if you're watching offline as well, please make sure you're smashing the like button. Before you all go, do me 4 massive favors. If you have enjoyed the stream, the numbers have been really great tonight. Really enjoyed speaking to you all in the comments, even the ones that were angry and wanted to swear at us. But please do hit that like button. Turn on the notification bell if you are new and will never want to miss a video or a live stream, and subscribe to Spurs Related. And the 4th one is to go and subscribe to Dave's channel, and he is live in about 15 minutes. So some more Spurs content back to back for you guys as well. I've just put his link in the description 3 times, guys. It doesn't even take you off this stream. Please go and click on it. Dave-O, what's coming up on the Irish Hotspur, mate? And thank you so much for a little bit longer than what I said, mate, but I appreciate it.
No, look, I enjoyed coming on here, and, you bail us out and you help us out on Tuesdays and that as well. So, you scratch our back, we'll scratch your back. I think it's only fair. But I do enjoy coming on here on a Monday night with you and Frank Thomas, so it's a good show. So, guys, keep making sure you turn your notification bells and look out for this one. But what we're doing over at the Irish Hotspur at 7 o'clock, we're going to go live with a fan show. Fans can come on and air their opinions and, frustrations or whatever it may be. And then, tomorrow will be all your match day content coming up. And it will be my birthday as well. So, get over. Wish me happy birthday tomorrow.
Absolutely, mate. I completely forgot. I even said to you in the private chat earlier to if I could mention it. But yes, it is Dave Harris's birthday tomorrow, guys. So please.
34 and not a grey hair in sight. I mean, yeah, I age well.
Lucky man. You got the blessings of the genes there, mate. But guys, please go and check out Dave's channel if you haven't done so already, and also go and show him some love on the stream today at 7 p.m. in literally 15 minutes time with Jack, of course, who's a great co-host as well. Please get over there, and of course, maybe smash him a few coins as well for his birthday, a few little tokens for his Indian that he's having tomorrow night as well. I've heard all about that, haven't we?
No, Wednesday night. I have to put it off until Wednesday because we're playing tomorrow night.
Well, we'll enjoy that, won't you, when it comes around. Thank you, Dave. Frank, thanks for doing your analysis as always, mate. Pleasure. Any concluding thoughts?
They better win tomorrow, or I'm going to be very miserable until Saturday lunchtime.
Yeah, big game tomorrow against Copenhagen, of course, in the Champions League. I did do a poll earlier, and it was very, very mixed in terms of the results. As you can see, will Spurs beat Copenhagen and Man United? 36% of you thought just Copenhagen. 32% of you said we'll beat both. 27% of you said neither. And 5% of you said only Man United. So a bit of a mix there. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Please make sure you like, subscribe, and turn the notification bell on. Go and check out Dave's channel as well. It's in the live chat, and we'll see you again very soon back on the Spurs Related YouTube channel and podcast. Remember, guys, as always, come on, you Spurs. Come on.